All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 52nd show of the Black Betterment broadcast. This show is going to be a bit different from the other 51. This one is going to be the first that's been pre-recorded. Unfortunately, I will not be around on Friday, so we'll have to pre-record it. Normally, we'll just not do it, to be honest. I think there's been once or twice we haven't done it, the show, but I thought let me try something new. I mean, if it works, we'll continue. I mean, there's other things as well as push stuff for dates, but is what it is. Is what it is. So I'm gonna try pre-record it, and I think hopefully I can stream this live. So as it's playing live, anyone who's actually there, they can still talk amongst themselves and that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, and this is very sad. This week, no one will be able to jump on the live. That's very tragic because that's a big part of the show's foundations, really, and something we look to continue and expand upon. But unfortunately, certain days it will not be that. So I'll just go for what the show might be. I mean, this could be literally anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. So let's see. I'll take my time, or maybe not. But relax. Get some hot tea, whatever it is, and just have a listen. And if you are live when it streams, if it does stream live, it isn't put up straight away. Talk amongst the family and build and all good stuff. So, without no delay, let's go through the formalities of what we have to do when we start this fantastic show. This is the Black Bear Broadcast 52. I'm your host, Rap Raven. And after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that black people are collectively inadequate. Yes, I say this at the beginning of all shows, and I will only stop saying it when there is evidence to prove that black people have become collectively adequate. All right. Unfortunately, because of many histories, there's many challenges black people face, and this has rendered black people in this particular way. But let's move on. So I don't need to necessarily talk about the 4D values. The 4D values is a way for when people come on live for us to talk and be respectful to each other and try to find solutions. But I'll just say them just so you know if you're watching the recording and you want to pass the message on. Discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. These are the very, very important values, the 4D values that we push every time we try to be constructive and have conversations amongst black people, trying to find solutions for the challenges black people face daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, historically, and all that good stuff. Now, also we try to make sure we try to use descriptive language and not derogative language. That's very helpful. Sometimes people get very passionate and their tempers fly and the words come out that they might mean or maybe mean in a better way. And we try to put some ways that can lower anxiety and allow conversation to flow. So let's try to be more descriptive than derogatory if possible when we're on the Black Bear broadcast, and especially when we're trying to help black people. That might be handy. All right, cool. Where are we? So some people might not know, but what is Black Betterment? Very crucial key point here. Black Betterment is black people helping black people on black issues. That's right. That's what it is. Straightforward, quite simple, really. Quite simple. That's what it is. It's black people helping black people on black issues for betterment. That's what it is. Right. So ultimately, black betterment is a lifestyle. So this broadcast and promotion, all this good stuff, is out to actually spread the word of black betterment, and hopefully people can practice that lifestyle. And through that practicing of the lifestyle, the collective inadequacies that we see amongst many black people, unfortunately, will be diminished. And that's the idea. That really is the idea. Right. For those who are new to us, it's going to sound very spooky and very, oh my goodness, but bear with it. We try to use fact and evidence and to back up claims. If you don't know already, that is. There is a world difference between, the conscious community, people who are consciously active of challenges that black people face, and the well-to-do just enjoying life and what's going on. Oh, what's going down this hole? Let me go see what's happening here, and then wow, bamboozle. Is this all? What's going on? Oh, there, shock, trauma. Okay, so let's move on. So as we have to do from now on, because we will be showing. Material, and we're not trying to get paid off it or say it's our work, and we try to give credit where credit's due. But let's read the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. For fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, non-profit, educational, or personal use tips to balance in the favor of fair use. So yeah, we might be using, but we're going to be using other people's content, and we're going to be more of reporting and scholarship. We're not trying to take their fancy lights and branding. No, sir, that's not what we're trying to do. No, sir. We're just trying to use it to try to educate and debate and all that good kind of eight that's in the world. Nice. All right. So what is today's topic? Well, there's two. We're going to split in two. So first one is, should black people practice the solutions white people recommend for racism, and where are the high principled black men? Do we need a campaign to highlight them? Very interesting second question there. But the first question really comes from it's trying to get everyone on the same page when it comes to seeking betterment. Now, this show will probably be a bit more slower paced because I might just play some videos and talk through it and try to interject and all that kind of interject and that kind of stuff. So I think some confusion seems to hit the family when you try to do dedicated work, when you try to target a people group and focus on what's best for them or us. You tend to get people saying, well, if other people did that, would it be right, and this kind of stuff. And I think this is where the fallacy kind of knocks us over, because the question is, should black people practice the same solutions to racism as non-black people or white people? And my answer is no. I think there should be a dedicated way of dealing with the history of challenges and challenges. And obviously black betterment is that solution that I'm pushing forward. Obviously, non-black people can't practice black betterment because black betterment is black people helping black people with black issues. So there is not such thing as non-black people practicing black betterment. And I'm pushing black betterment as a dedicated solution that I recommend black people enforce kindly to try to find better ways of operating. So let's go on. So here's what it is. Forgive us for this diagram. This diagram was made in InDesign, so it isn't pixel perfect as I tend to do. Whatever I try to do, actually. So it's just a rough, because the thing is, I try to throw imagery and shapes stuff, because when you see shapes, it makes things easier. When you see symbols and this kind of stuff, it makes certain content easier to digest. And feel free to take these kind of analogies and use them in your day-to-day debates. Maybe not screen grab this because this is very messy. I should do it more neatly, and when I get time I will. But basically, let's break it down. So wealth and network practice. So if we look to the left, we see white people's wealth and network practice. Now, what we're seeing almost like a spider's web. You could say that, or a diamond or something. I don't know. And what we're seeing is the lines are the networking, meaning connection and opportunities and free flowing smoothness and that good stuff, right? While the circles is the amount of wealth. So is this obviously a symbolic representation? It doesn't there's no people in there. It's just something for your mind to digest. Now, when you look at white people's wealth and network practice, this is what you tend to see generally. You seem to see all connected, big and small. It's symmetrical. It weighs itself out, right? Unfortunately, when we go to the right now and we look at black people's wealth and network practice, if you can see your screen, it would be in your best interest. When you look, you start seeing, what do we see? Well, we see, of course, there's different sizes of wealth and this kind of stuff, of course. Maybe not in the same capacity as to the left, the white people's wealth. And there's a history behind that, which we shall go on the next slide. But naturally, there is. But obviously, the networking aspect and the arrangement, that's where the problem seems to come in. I guess black betterment is trying to fix that issue. So when we say that there are dedicated challenges and dedicated solutions we're trying to do, this is the kind of diagram I want to think of. So if ever you talk to a non-black person who tries to tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that, or even a black person, because to be fair, it's more likely to be black people telling stuff to us, right? This is the diagram you have to show people. Yeah, this is the metaphors and the hyperboles, all that good stuff, whatever. You have to try to demonstrate in your communication. You see, this is the challenge that we're trying to fix, right? There is a wealth of talent in the black community, a wealth and skills and high earners and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, we haven't developed the networking capabilities yet to do it, because many people are mentally integrated in other people's work strategies. You see, and looking for other people to find solutions, and this isn't really sustainable. Our solutions are holistic, so when you start looking one thing over, it will have domino effect and correct everything else. Like the diagram on the left demonstrates. You see that kind of wealth that's networked quite well, and it seems to circulate quite good. All that good stuff. Anyway, there you go. So having a sneak peek of that. Cool, 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 cool. Now, right, another reason why we kind of want to ignore any black person, non-black person who wants to talk about, you know, uh, you know, we should operate the same when it comes to find solutions for community problems. For whatever reason, we have to highlight this stuff. So let's start this right. Today, black people have had a history of challenges, um, and we can go back. Everyone knows it, but why say everyone? But not everyone, to be honest. So let's just go. Let's just see if it's a like for like. Let's see if it's a like for like reality. So we understand that black people mass kidnapping of Africans. We understand this went on. We understand that mass murder of Africans went on. We understand that mass raping men, women, and children of Africans went on. Africans and black people are synonymous in this conversation, by the way. Mass chattel enslavement of Africans, black people. So for those that don't know, chattel slavery is like, because there's many forms of slavery. We can't agree with any form, but there is many forms. And the most diabolical form that manifests is where you actually reduce the ownership of a person, where they have no rights and everything about them is completely owned by the enslaver. I don't like using the terms to use like animals, because animals should not be used. This is not correct behavior. No life organism should be used. But this is what happened. And very, very, very severe free labor and pain and murder that went on there with the child enslavement. Right, then around about the same time and after that time, there was anti-black laws preventing black progress. So in many lands where you have this melting pot, so-called melting pot of different cultures and stuff, whatever, Europe facing black people, what will happen is you will get laws that would prevent black people from progressing. This could go on for some time. The legacy of this obviously will have a drawback, as you would imagine. Then you have the systematic sabotage of black economics. So in many of the lands where black people would face white people or non-black people as well, you get economic sabotage. So you tend to find that black people realize that you have to be self-catering, and unfortunately, many of attempts were sabotage, and we've gone through some of them in the past, and we'll bring up more in the future. And this is obviously a terrible thing to have happen. And then obviously the most unkindest things on with the scientific experiments on Africans and black people. Never good, never good. This has gone on and who knows continues to go on today. Right, okay. Then there's obviously the propaganda push to cause self-hate. There's a very legacy-based challenge where a lot of the self-hate in the black community unfortunately was pushed upon the black community by outsiders. And it's still today carrying on, but also there's plenty insiders who help perpetuate that, and this is a solution we're trying to find post-haste. Right, and then what we're dealing with, the theft and exploitation of black resources and wealth, never good. Africa is mineral rich, wealthy land, but unfortunately the majority of Africans will not benefit from that through to colonization, corruption, all the shins that. And at the end of all the shins, black people are the ones who suffer the most. This is what happens. And then you have second-class citizens, restriction on housing, ownership, self-defense, language, religion, education, voting rights, freedom to move and associate, and marriage. So, this is a very distinct experience that black people seem to forget, because black people, unfortunately, part of this was trained to be subservient and look to at other people's pain before we look at our own. So this is just like expected, I guess. This is the kind of pain that people are expected to be able to tolerate. And obviously, last but by no means least, and there's many more, but just not on the list. The profitable mass incarceration programs aimed towards black people, and no matter where you go, you tend to find that black people seem to make up a big portion. The males, that is, a big portion, and the males being in jail, males in jails, and locked up, will also bleed into our next topic of black women finding suitable partners. But obviously, this goes on, and this, and some people would conclude that, oh, maybe black people are prone to criminality. uh, Educated people understand that anti-black racism is going on, and the legacy of that is why this is happening, and we can unfold that as time goes by. But it's just a list for you to see. Now, the reason I read these out is because I'm telling black people to completely separate when it comes to find a solution for black challenges to non-black people. I think a complete, inward solution, isolation solution is best and key. And what I'm saying is because of this history that Europeans, white people, have done upon black people, Africans, uh, it is necessary for them to have their way to remedy that in their mind. So, they have to have something that they feel can remedy that. I'm not holding my breath, but this is just what people say good people want to do. Now, I've put down two options here, right? Now, I put down two options. Now, with these two options, these are the two options that Europeans could have come with, right? They could have remedy A, which is a long-term reparations, meaning money, wealth, assets, and education, long-term, like an ongoing of those elements to fix the damage, right? Redistribution of income and wealth, which is something that's there that could be done. This is still part of remedy A, by the way. Dismantle white supremacy, that always be nice. We could do that. And then obviously, last and no means least, but some people say it might be necessary, acknowledging the wrongdoings and genocide. Yeah. So this is the remedy A that, left alone, white people could have come up with and said, this is what we want to do because of the harm list I just read out before of all the challenges. However, white people came up with a different solution. They came with remedy B. And remedy B would remove race-based laws. So, things like you can't do this because you're a certain color. You can't do it anymore. And also promote a doctrine, don't see color doctrine. We don't see color, that kind of stuff. So this ultimately was a solution that Europeans pushed forward. They chose remedy B over remedy A. Now, because of this shows you that we can't be in the same boat, and we don't have to follow the same kind of solution-based plans. Because that was that. I wouldn't even say that's the easy. That was the option that less effort had to be made and could easily be manipulated. Because technically, tangibles are hard to actually define within that kind of context. Also, we're going to move on to this don't see color doctrine because this also is problematic as well. And I'm telling black people, it's in your best interest to see color. It's in your best interest to identify black people because in order for you to practice black Betterment, you need to know who black people are, and you need to know how to help black people. So this don't see color. This might work for Europeans and white people, but this is not constructive for black people. Please ignore that particular doctrine. It is not beneficial. And this is what I'm saying, where fallacies created, where white people will project this kind of mannerisms onto black people. And what will happen is when you interact with them, they will train other unsynchronized black people to infiltrate collectives and talk about this kumbayarism. And now let's all do it together. And if white people did that, wouldn't that be problematic? If white people try to build up economics and help their own prosper and have dedicated programs just for white people, wouldn't that be a problem? Some would argue that goes on anyway. But no, this is two different dynamics, and it's a fallacy. And black people need to understand that fallacy, and it isn't in our best interest to follow it. Okay, that's what that is. Right. So, let me just make sure I'm on the right place. No, let's move on. So, we've done that. Now I've done that. That brings me to my first thing. So, as you, some people might know, I go to Speaker's Corner. And many people, the Arab community, the white community, the Asian community, a lot of them draw for this. I don't see color card. I don't see color card. That's a nice coin phrase there. Yeah, but draw for that. And I found some old video that happened 2 or 3 years ago through some people debating. And it's between a brother called Jedi and another Arab brother. I forget his name's going past me. I'm sure all nice people in the video, very, very cool people. But what I want to highlight is you always hear that race doesn't mean anything, but look at this debate when they're talking about color in Islam or amongst Muslims, because let us make a distinction between Islam and what Muslims practice, because there are many brothers and sisters who are Muslim who and they will tell you some of the challenges they go through as well. So in these works, we will make a distinction between the practice of Muslims and Islam as a set of rules and guides and this kind of stuff. But remember, this is another con game, because what will happen is the non-black Muslims will quote these kind of like everyone's equal kind of kumbaya kind of stuff, but not necessarily practice it. While the black Muslims, who are also suffer from a subservience training that their Christian and atheists and brothers suffer from as well, will always then try to enforce these kind of rules, and then it doesn't work in their best interest. But let's have a sneak peek and see. I'm going to skip ahead for a bit. A big up content or everything. I think I ripped it from this channel. Hopefully, hopefully not mine.
Sand, yeah? You call it dirt, okay. And now, so that's just one word to describe what it is, yeah. Now, when I'm talking about the next bar that says he struck the left side, yeah, and the black offsprings, yeah, came out like ants as well, yeah. Not like ants.
No, it was like
charcoal. What's like ants as well?
Like either.
Bro, look, I'm confused. Was it like ants as well?
No.
Charcoal, not ants. Charcoal.
Charcoal.
Black charcoal.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Charcoal. Yeah.
Okay.
Charcoal.
Black charcoal. So let me ask you this now. The word charcoal in Arabic means black. Let me ask you.
No.
The Arabic word for charcoal is what? What's the Arabic word for charcoal? What is the Arabic word? What is the Arabic word for charcoal? There's Arabic speakers. You don't. Himam, yeah?
Or fahm.
Yeah, so himam, yeah,
is fahm as well, yeah.
Himam, yeah. So it says himam in English, yeah.
Himam has.
And himam, the word himam,
He doesn't allow people to talk.
I do.
He doesn't allow people to talk.
No, because he said I was going around in circles because I don't think you understood what I said. The word himam, yeah. Does it denote black or does it denote charcoal?
Okay. When it says himam, is it referring to
Himam
black?
refer to charcoal,
Yeah.
or refer to volcanic black thing.
Okay. Would you say?
Like lava when it becomes black.
Saying basically.
So it does denote a color,
Yeah.
without having to use the color
No,
as a
you
word.
can't, because we can't look at you and say you're himam. We can't say that. It doesn't work like that. Does that mean something? Oh, you're charcoal.
But you can say I'm black.
You're milk.
But you can say I'm black.
No, I can't say milk.
Can you say can you say I'm black?
Yes, we
though?
can say.
Can you say, when you're describing me, can you describe me as being like himam?
No.
Because that's a black chocolate.
You're not
Even if we share the same color.
You have nothing to do with charcoal.
No, even if.
So for those who go to Speaker's Corner, this is, you tend to always get these debates about stuff, and sometimes it's a black issue, and then, people give their opinions about in the Quran, in the Bible, what was black described, and there's black people oppressed, and, black people divine, all this kind of stuff, right? But anyway, so we're just going to let it carry on for a bit. I'm just giving you some a build-up before we try to analyze the behavior patterns.
We share the same color. That's in a metaphor. You can't do that.
Listen,
Okay.
again. So here, when Allah has brought the offspring Adam, this refer to their souls. What's going to happen to them? It's not the physical body.
Okay.
Yeah. And Allah said about related to physical body. Allah said in the Quran, He said the differences between color and shape, and as well the difference between the tongue, what you say, what you speak, your languages, is only signs of Allah's ability. Again, listen to this.
I want to know.
Hold on a second. Before we get to that. Yeah. Now, what we say now, what's the meaning of this? The meaning of this ayah, that the differences of our color, the differences of our languages, the differences, all of that, these signs of Allah's ability. Yeah. So Allah has created us with different things, with different.
Just to clarify, he's not talking about color at all.
No, he's talking about.
He's only talking about physical objects
the evil and the good
that have characteristics of light and dark.
The evil and good. Yes.
Visual.
Yes.
Listen. visual characteristics of light and dark.
Yes.
So so visually, he's associating the look of darkness with those that are going to Jahannam. So the soul has a look of darkness. So now what I'm saying is this not an example? Is this not an example of colorism in language? Where something that is bright is going to heaven and is good. Something that is light, something that can be physically seen as being a lighter shade, can be metaphorically tied in with something that's that's pure and holy.
No, that's not true.
That's what it looks like.
No, that's not true. Because Allah told us, and related to our colors in the Quran, Allah said the differences between your shapes and you, He said اختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم. He said the difference between your tongue, you mean your languages, and your color, those are signs of the greatness of God. So Allah said this. So Allah said clearly this in the Quran. Now, in related to this as well, we have a practical example. We have the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, who someone who is a black Abyssinian who became a Muslim, he gained.
Let's start listening now. So he's describing Bilal in Islam. This is the go-to guy. He's the unquestionable black one.
The highest status in paradise. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said about him, he said, I heard your footstep before me in Jannah. He said, what did you do?
So a black man, Abyssinian black man, was going to be entering paradise before the Prophet.
No, he said before me or in front of me.
I don't care. Was it
the other one?
Adam was black anyway.
Listen.
So we're not disputing that. I was disputing that one.
We dispute, by the way, Adam is black, but it's a bit
whatever. Adam was black. So
okay, so you noticed that, right? Brother Jedi just said Adam was black. Adam, for those who know, is the first man in the Abrahamic faith, the Bible, the Quran, Judaism, this kind of stuff. This is the first man, and he's the first one was Eve. And Brother Jedi just, Adam was black. Now, I've been at these places. A lot of people say we don't know what kind of person is. And I heard this, I've heard this before, and these people say the same kind of thing. And a lot of them will say they don't know what color he is, but he wasn't black. This is something you will see a lot. We don't know what color he was, but he wasn't black. Very interesting statement. And this is what I'm trying to say about this color blindness. It is one-sided when you have to note any person of any kind of importance anywhere. But let's have a sneak peek.
How do you prove otherwise?
Can I make my point? Regarding, for example,
all your prophets are black. All your prophets are black.
No, regarding darkness.
All your prophets are black.
Regarding darkness,
every one of them.
Darkness ascribed to hellfire.
You notice how disgruntled the Arab brother in the background is. Let's take it back. Let's look at the body language, the eyes. It's almost thrown off his game slightly because this is something that it probably wasn't prepared to hear. This kind of stuff.
All your prophets are black.
Regarding darkness,
every one of them.
Darkness ascribed to hellfire. And
it's almost laughable because I've been to these places, I've seen it, and it's like unfortunately, for our black Muslim brothers as well, many of them are like the black Christian brothers and the black atheist brothers, and they don't understand that a lot of these Arabs, Asian communities, they have a history, unfortunately, not all but many, of this, and they'll tell you. We can invite them on the show one day to have the disdain competition, whatever. They'll tell you there is a disdain for, and I don't know the past the gentleman speaking, I don't know, but there is a history and culture of disdain for black people, and a kind group will just let people get on with their own stuff, but it's almost like they try to somehow cover it up. But sometimes these things slip out, and I'm pushing for in these kind of reaction because if race and color, once again, the topic of the show doesn't matter, why would you care? I've seen more control Christians where you say Adam is black, and they're like, yeah, okay, what does it matter? It's not the skin. It's even if it's wrong, it's not the skin. It's the message, right, good stuff. So here, this guy clearly has been slightly rumbled. Let's look at one more time.
So, how do you prove otherwise? The
other one?
Adam was black anyway.
Listen.
So we're not disputing that. I was disputing that one.
We dispute, by the way, Adam is black, but it's...
So Shay wants you to know that we speak. We can now do the conversation, but carry on.
Whatever. Adam was black. So, how do you prove otherwise? Adam was black.
Regarding, for example,
all your prophets are black. All your prophets are black.
No, regarding darkness.
All your prophets are black.
Regarding darkness,
every one of them.
Very interesting reaction.
Ascribed to hellfire.
He's talking to his friend to make sure he knows that knows, and now he's going to get his breath.
Even if you go with that argument, if you die.
Right, but anyway, so this was an old video I spoke about in the past. I finally found, stumbled by accident, This kind of behavior. I mean, to some people it's not shocking, some people, but for someone who actually studies body language, and someone who who's into Black Betterment, these behaviors are key, and I see them consistently. Doesn't obviously affect me because I'm not synchronized with any other kind of people groups when it comes to Betterment. But unfortunately, there are brothers and sisters from the Muslim, the Christian, and the Jewish faith who are heavily integrated in other faiths and lifestyles. And what happens is a lot of them have authority over them, and you can't guarantee that their best interests at heart when a person has this kind of mindset. But I'm sure it's a topic we can debate in the future. Fantastic one to go over. Now, there's kind of maybe 1 minute or so of another I don't see colorist kind of conversation between a poet and individual. I'll let them talk for a minute or so, just say because me personally, this whole I don't see color thing, I'm not really into. I don't really care because my whole thing is to not necessarily. I'm not necessarily talking to non-black people about anything. I'm talking to black people, but this particular individual wants a white person to understand why such a concept is offensive. My only area of interest is to help synchronize black people to get back onto Black Betterment, but let's listen to it anyway. Right, let's go.
Top down.
Rewind.
Blindness in the city of just the whole concept of color blindness and why it's counter to racial justice.
Well, again, it's kind of a top down thing. It's just the concept makes the dominant culture comfortable. And it's designed to do that. So again,
So once again, what the brother's saying there is this concept is designed to make the dominant society more comfortable. I mentioned similar stuff when it comes to the Remedy A, Remedy B. Remedy B was a much more easier one to execute, and it lets the dominant society Europeans off with many of the past challenges, the past crimes and stuff that they committed upon the world, but more particularly people of African descent and this kind of stuff. There we go. Let's see what more brothers say.
It separates you from the unthinkable. So rather than deal with a problem, let's act like it's not there, and that's ultimately that's what's happening. It's acting like our differences aren't there, because if we acknowledge our differences, then you're now indicted, so that's why it's toxic. It erases the indictment, So at the top level, in a macro sense, that's what's going on. But I think in a very specific, individual, person-to-person perspective, it communicates that my distinctions don't matter, right? Which would mean that my identity doesn't matter, right? And that's confusing to a young black man, because you're telling me my identity doesn't matter, yet I'm being treated a certain way because of this identity. So help me understand how these two messages coming from the same mouth make sense, right? So
this video was by Vergi. Google them. There's not our content, but just studying what the brother's saying.
So my distinctions don't matter, yet I'm being oppressed because of my distinctions. And then when I tell you that you're treating me like this because of my distinctions, you're saying that I'm creating the race problem because I'm the one talking about the race. It's confusing, and it breeds this like.
It is very confusing. It's not very confusing. Some of this is a strategy. Once again, the solution is black people look inwards for solutions, not outwards. I know it sounds weird and wacky when I say it now, but try it for a bit. You realize it's actually the great solution of all time.
Almost like disdain, because I'm like, I don't understand you, because what you're saying doesn't make sense, right? Not only does it not make sense, it's not how you're acting. Right? You're acting like you're not colorblind, but you're telling me you are, So I think in all that, and then now as a believer, right, which is a whole other tier of this, is race was God's idea. Like the Lord made us, like He made us what we are. So for you, especially as a believer, to use this term colorblind, I'm like, I don't know what Bible you're reading. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, you're denying and ignoring a very important, specific, purposeful, and beautiful part of the redemptive narrative. It's just like color matters. Like it's part of the story. Even the idea of like the coming Messiah. He couldn't have been Korean. He just couldn't have been, because who his family was, what tribe he's from, where he's from, when he was born, at what time, and in what region. are signs to say that this dude's the Messiah, right? And if he didn't come from this region, from this family, from
It's a different reaction from, I'm assuming, that the European Christian person here in regards to the last Arab person. I think many Christians have got over the whole what color was I think for many years you had Jesus portrayed as European, Norwegian, this kind of stuff, Swedish, very blonde, very blue hair, very straight nose. And I think as time goes by, that kind of marketing is not working anymore. So there's not much they can say when a person presents a dark-skinned Semitic, African, what it might be, person. But let's go.
this tribe, from this lineage, then he's not Jesus. Then he's not the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? So like the race mattered. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that, it's toxic because one, it erases my identity, and
very interesting word, race is my identity. We shall unpack that more of a biological sense later on, and also how it connects to economics. But
it's a self-defeating statement because I'm being treated the way that I'm treated because of my color, but you're saying you don't see it. You clearly see it.
Yeah. And it rarely benefits.
It never benefits. It never.
It never benefits.
It don't ever benefit us. It's just what I'm saying. It's just making the dominant. It's making you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
So it's like,
exactly.
cool. Yeah. It's in a very crude way. It's like, if a husband was like incredibly abusive to his wife, and he says, well, I'm scar blind. Like, I don't see scars.
Yeah,
I don't see your scars, baby.
Yeah.
Well, sweetheart, you gave them to me. What do you mean you don't see them? You know what I'm saying? You did this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
One thing that people have to remember as well, and this is where it's very, very tricky, very weird and wacky again. It's teaching white people about racism. Very interesting concept. Very interesting concept. Really, at a certain point, white people need to be teaching us about racism and how it works, because remedy B of promote race-based laws and promote don't see the color doctrine over remedy A, which is reparations and redistribution of wealth and dismantling white supremacy. This shows that there is a history of knowing and understanding about racism. So really, black people should be learning from Europeans about racism. And I feel we want to get off this kind of really teaching white people about racism, and this, and usually they do it because we want to include Europeans, white people in the solution. And the solution, as I push forward, is Black Betterment, as in black people helping black people in black issues in all areas of people activity. And because of the history of harm and resources and networking, remember when we started, we showed you the networking icon. Because of that, it isn't necessary to include other people groups in that kind of solution, because everyone else is doing fine. It is black people who are collectively inadequate. And because of the subservient chip that's in all of us, sometimes we forget that it's maybe part of programming. So yes, explain racism concepts, whatever, but generally, if you want white people to tell you about racism, not you tell them about it. That's kind of the logic I view it as, but let's move on. So, cool. Now, if we go back to share screen. Oops, is it gone? Oh my God, have I messed up? Probably have. Let's go on to that one, and then that one. Magic. Killer speed of a millipede there. Now, right. So that's just a brief intro about the race fallacy, this kind of stuff. And naturally, when I start public speaking again and doing other shows, whatever, I'll probably bang more harder on that. Just like it's no longer, we can no longer tolerate this kind of like everyone does the same thing. Black people have to act uniquely different from everyone else and have a dedicated plan, or we will see no results. And if people try to say that's not right, then we should suspect them of being racist or anti-black. This is the necessary thing to do. Right, cool, fantastic, excellento. Now we're going to segue into a connected area that we'll come back to this, but we have to go through the notions. And that is relationship compatibility challenges. Yes, right, yeah, all right. So as you know, we're going to be starting the Black Love campaign, and which is constructive black man with constructive black woman. This is a very good way to have a constructive black people, as I've concluded. Now, we're going to be moving into very high anxiety territory. A long-lasting challenge, historical challenge that we're going to try to overcome. And as we're aware that there are many black people who might, there's constructive black people and the opposite, and there's different pockets of people all over the world, blah blah blah. But we're going to be focused on the breakdown of the black relationship, right? The constructive black relationship. Now, what I would say is let me break this down into two sections: the primary problem and the secondary problem. Anti-black racism, the legacy and current, is a problem that has affected the relationship hands down. Yeah, and we cannot let this off the goal, but we should not use this as the go-to reasons to not find solutions or to recognize shortcomings that happen in spite of that or because of that, right? So then we hit on the secondary problems. Now, the secondary problems is the error-prone behavior. Now, anti-black racism, from our standpoint, is quite hard to find a solution because that's coming from outside. So that you have to kind of build up your defense and economic structure and collective synchronization group to be able to deal with that. So that's a low solution ratio. But a high solution ratio is actually what we can do, how we behave within the community when it comes to being compatible for a relationship. That's right. So we're going to go through the notions. Let me just see where I'm going to start. Let's make sure. Right. So here's what we're going to tackle. What is a constructive? What constructive black woman want in a black husband? Excellent. In black husbands. Look at that. It says in a black husbands. In a black husband. That should be in black husbands. All right. So we will update that. Right. So but before, matter of fact, even though I can actually do that, what I love about this is I can do this in real time. So as we find, we're gonna do this. Let's see if the magic can work. Hold on, bear with me. This is the what constructive black women want in a black husband, or it should be what constructive black women want in black husbands. That makes more sense. That does. That makes more sense. So that on the fly. Let me save that like that. Voila. Press save. Let's see if we can do this with the killer speed of a millipede. All right, hold on. Look at this. Oh man, this technology, right? Excellent. Cool. Done. I think every time I get to this page, it's almost like the certain page, it's always some kind of typo. Anyway, so now we've done that. If I where is it? Hold on. If I click on there, just bear with me. Click on that twice. And let's see. We're gonna shut this down. Let's see if it still works. Open it again, voila. And let's see if it actually did. That'd be great if it did. That'd be mega fast. All right, go through the notions. And oh, there we go. Let's ignore that one. In black husbands. All right. What women want in black husbands. Look at that. Oh man, that's so super fast. Anyway, good. Now, where were we? Okay. So the desirables is educated, high principled, provider and protector. I mean, I'm going really fast on those, but these are very key things. I think these, educated comes in many forms, but some form of education, whether self-education, another one, but generally a value in learning stuff, learning valuable, tangible things that could be beneficial to being a provider. High principled, attentive and this kind of stuff, looking out for people and like good stuff. High principled, right? But anyway, let's move to the challenges, right? And the reason challenges is because the challenges make it much more challenging for black sisters to find acceptable partners, and that's the mortality rate. Unfortunately, there's many reasons which we expand as time goes by why black men die quite highly. This could be by the state, or it could be by mistake, or it could be by behavioral patterns inside inner cities in certain areas, whatever, right? These all contribute back. Next is incarceration rate. As we know, black people in many places, they are the minority, right? The minority are black people. We are the minority, and yet we make up much of the incarcerations. Many cry foul there. As we understand, when we started, there are profitable businesses when it comes to the prison system and this kind of stuff. But yeah, from there. Psychological damage. Unfortunately, there are many brothers who have psychological damage because of a holistic, not even holistic, but let's say a domino effect of many other challenges. And then obviously education rate. Unfortunately, many are not educated. And then obviously, you don't have to be educated, but it would be if you're not educated, it would be good if you had some kind of practical skill, something outside of stuff that might get you arrested. Now, obviously, this is me drawing on a certain particular demographic. Obviously, not all black men are this way, and there are plenty of black men and collective black men groups that are fantastic and tick all the boxes. Unfortunately, we are focused on those who don't because we are answering the challenges of what many black women might be facing. Right, so this is what we've highlighted. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to listen to before we move on, we're going to this is kind of like a add-on to I missed this video, but it's quite a good one. Hear this one. This is talking about black women and white allies. It's kind of segue before the last one, but came a bit late. But hear it now. Voila!
Bad news for intersectional feminists.
All right.
It turns out that white women are much less likely to help a black woman who might be getting raped or about to be raped than they would be if it was a fellow white woman. Now, these results come from the Psychology of Women Quarterly.
All right.
And basically what they did is they found 160 white female undergraduates, and they were given this story, right, about a potential rape scenario, which was a sober male escorting an obviously drunk woman into a bedroom at a party.
Okay.
Now, sometimes the woman in the story was named Laura, and other times the woman in the story was named Latoya.
Okay.
So stereotypically white versus stereotypically black names, right?
You name it.
And the study authors Christine Maralise and Jennifer Katz found that although white students correctly perceived that the black women were at risk in a pre-assault situation, they tended to not feel as personally involved in the situation, which is really, really unfortunate, right? And so they kind of go into this study about what this might mean.
So they asked them, do you think this person is about to be raped? And they also asked, would you intervene?
Would you intervene?
Okay.
Right? And so they were much more likely to intervene if the woman had the name Laura, so a stereotypically white name, than if her name were Latoya. The study authors also say that obviously this study can't predict what would actually happen in real life, right? If they saw a woman.
And it would be unethical to run that experiment.
Right, obviously, that would be unethical to run that experiment. So they're saying that it might be different in that scenario.
Sure.
But it does kind of...
Let me highlight this. We'll play a bit more. But what I'm trying to say to black people in general is the solution comes from inside the community. Now, there's going to be obviously a dynamic between black men and black women, and at some point there will be disagreements and maybe slight civil wars going on that needs to be rectified. But ultimately, when I showed that first paragraph, that's of the legacy of challenges pushed upon black people, it is to find solutions in the people who benefit from your downfall collectively is very challenging because they have their own things going on. And many of them do not still synchronize you. So I showed you the Europeans, I showed you the Arabs, but let's carry on listening just for a bit.
I think more than the fact that white women wouldn't save a black woman from rape or something like that, I think it does indicate that there is not the same sort of relationship between white women and black women. Like you don't necessarily, for a lot of white women, they don't necessarily see themselves in the black women, whereas they might see themselves in another white woman that is in a pre-assault situation. That's really sad.
Or they feel like it's a different enough community that it's not their place to get involved.
Yeah,
or something
right.
I mean,
well, they're going to try to justify. Let's go for that. Cool. But just so you know, and when I'm debating and Africans, black people come to me and they say include non-black people, that's what I'm saying. The subservient chip is really well integrated, but other people groups, they do not feel that same way generally, as this is showing. But when their chip becomes activated is when black people try to do for self, and then there is no inclusion, then dismantling starts coming. Some kind of regretful fear of some kind from some ancient time starts manifesting, or manifesting. So anyway, that's that. So we went back to go forward. So now what we're going to do now is we're going to jump to I'll make a place for you. We're going to play one sister from America and some sisters from England first. And this is an English woman who's dating, and she's dating. I think she got in a bit of trouble because she was a black woman who said she's no longer dating Europeans for some reason. I don't know why, but let's find out.
Extensively about your search, not for Mr. Right, but for Mr. Woke. Tell me about that. I mean, what on earth does that mean?
Yeah, I'm still on the lookout, by the way, for someone. Still haven't met someone yet, so open for invitations, auditions, all of it. But such a Mr. Woke. So woke means kind of being in tune with the social justice issues of the day, about inequality, about human rights. And I have to disclaimer that in the day I do research on race and inequality. So those issues are really important to me. But I am also really fun at a party as well. I'm not.
I am certain. I am certain. But I mean, you're pretty candid about some of your earlier sexual experiences.
Yeah.
And there was one that which stuck with me, and indeed in the first Mr. Woke article, where you were about to lose your virginity, and your prospective partner said
that he'd never had sex with a black girl before. So I put a stop to that encounter. Actually, I lost my virginity to someone else in the end who didn't say that. Bit of a late bloomer, so university was the place. But it was very off-putting, but it's also quite a common thing to happen for quite a lot of black women.
Well, tell us a bit more about that, your experience, and why this search for Mr. Woke, you know, it isn't perhaps as kind of weird given your experiences.
Yeah, so I'm definitely, and from the responses that I've gotten, it's definitely, I'm not the only person that's had some of these experiences. So, for example, when I was on study abroad, I hooked up with this guy who is American, and I found out that actually he is what we'd call a biological racist. So he believes that like some races are just predisposed to violence, for example, or have certain behaviours that
And he felt that about
them.
black people, did he?
He did think that about black people, but not about me as an individual, which is always, I find, interesting. The dissonance there doesn't make someone necessarily change their view. So he actually said to me, "Oh, but you're not like that." And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course not." And no one is. No one's innately violent. But it didn't result in him then reevaluating his views.
What, did he just think that you were an exception?
Yeah, an exception to a rule. Yeah. I make better choices now. I meet much nicer people than that.
I mean, it does. I have to admit, reading the articles, it does sound like you've met a series of, you know, bits of work. Frankly, I mean, tell us a little bit more about some of your experiences. I mean, there was a boyfriend that you had who then went to India, who decided to get in touch.
He went on a holiday, and it was reflecting a lot about our relationship. We'd been broken up for like over a year at least, and then he just sent me this really out of the blue, weird, like pseudo-intellectual analysis about race and gender and how, you know, I was obsessed with it, apparently, obsessed with...
I mean, his view, in a sense, was that you viewed everything through the prism of race.
Yeah. Through the prism of race and gender, but race the most. And that at first used to think, why would I do that all the time, particularly because I grew up in Reading, which is like a small town, and have lots of white middle-class friends. So, you know, what did I have to complain about? Why was I always talking about race all the time? He did acknowledge that was probably a bit unfair. But race, unfortunately, is... I mean, I'm proud of who I am, but even in the places where I don't want it to be an issue, it still is. Unfortunately, we live in a country where 44% of people believe that some races are born harder working than others. So these ideas haven't gone away, and until they have, like, I'm going to have to keep talking about it, and it has to keep being part of my life.
Right, so what you have here is you have a black lady trying to talk to white people, obviously trying to find the perfect white man, you know, who's not going to practice racism. And I'm sure that exists. I'm sure of it. But I don't know if that's, you know, if her efforts might be best served elsewhere. You know, I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just, you know, what it is. As you know, I understand that constructive black math, constructive black women makes constructive black children, and that's a goal that we're trying to promote here.
And I hope that one day our society is one where these issues don't matter, and I'm out of a job and I think of something else to complain about. But we're not there yet, and he couldn't really get that or see that.
Let's go through the woke checklist that you have, and whether or not it's written down in a bit of paper, it does strike me that you probably have. Now, given your experiences, a list of things that you won't tolerate anymore. What would be on that list?
So definitely, you know, no racists.
That's a good one.
No sexists.
Okay.
No one who's homophobic.
Okay.
These are like, you know, the foundation
to be fair,
stuff.
they're pretty standard for me too.
Yeah,
you know.
good. I'm glad. Those are like the basic things. You need to care about what's happening in wider society. It needs to bother you that poverty has increased, that child poverty has increased. Social issues have to matter to you in some way. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. And
could your own personal choices be a contributing factor to fixing those?
yeah, you know, some people might find that a bit much. Someone, when I wrote like an amalgamation of these articles in a piece for The Guardian, some of the comments underneath were saying, good luck in life, love, you know, maybe just get some cats. I don't think this guy exists. Like,
I mean, could you, for example, you know, be in a longer-term relationship with someone who didn't believe, just by way of example, that the Metropolitan Police were institutionally racist?
For me, no. I think you can take people on a journey if you're willing to do that. People are always willing to learn and change, and if you really love someone, people can be willing to put in that kind of work. But I'm tired. I can't.
We probably should start the Black Love campaign early and try to find the sister a good constructive black man. That might be a solution to her, to all the pain she's gone through trying to find love in races for some reason, which is very unfortunate. But before we can do that, we have to make sure that we have a pool of constructive black men, because that's the goal, isn't it? Anyway, so let me leave that. Let's move to our brothers and sisters across the pond. There might be some raunchy language in here. Forgive it. This is the nature of this particular show.
Black women and interracial dating. Get ready. This one's going to be spicy.
I'm sure it will be. Marley, big up her channel, goes out.
Hi, I'm Marley Hall. I've spent my entire career asking questions and getting the answers that inspire, inform, and entertain. Now I get to focus on what matters to our community and lead the conversations we have when we're the only ones in the room. So I have a few friends here to help me break it all down. Publicist and entrepreneur Tequila White, licensed therapist and host Tia Brown, and writer and podcast host Nicole Perkins. All right, so let's get right to it. Well, we have the rapper Eve and Serena Williams. They are among a growing number of black women who have married white men. Some people call it swirling, and it made headlines recently when a co-host on The Real said this.
And this is why I'm so emotional about it, because so many of our sisters are so lonely, and they don't want to admit it. And all they got to do is just take a chance, because we don't have the love that we need. And you need to go out and find that one person.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
You feel good. Yes. That one person that you can turn to when you have a bad day. And you don't have to turn to your girlfriends or your mama or somebody. You turn to that one person, he understands and looks in your eye. That's the one you keep, and I don't care what color he is.
Well, I'll be honest, I got a little emotional when I saw that. I'm sure women of all races can relate to feeling lonely at some point in their lives, but black women especially have a unique set of challenges when it comes to meeting, dating, and marrying. So, Tia, you're the relationship expert. Why is it so hard out here for the sisters?
Well, we're dealing with a couple of issues that other communities just aren't dealing with. Number one, because of the history in this country with racial disparities, economic disparities, we have a high incarceration rate of African American men. So studies have shown that the rate of black men in the age group of about 25 to 54 in comparison to black women is actually 83 to 100. So for every 100 black women, there are only 83 men, right?
So we outnumber them.
So we're outnumbering them. We also know the statistics around black women getting higher education rates and things like that. So there are a lot of things that make it not an equal playing field. So we have that issue. But then we also have the other side of that coin is like what was going on at home when you have dads who aren't there. So what happens? You have a lot of the super moms. And super moms are great. We love them. We support them. But unfortunately, a lot of times that creates a different depiction of what womanhood should be like for an African American woman, right? So you see little girls growing up without men in the household, and black boys growing up thinking that women do it all and black women are workhorses.
Right.
And it sounds so harsh to say, but these dynamics impact how we feel.
Right, and that all black women are like their mom.
All black women are like their mom. You know, another thing that we don't talk about too is that we black women have gone through so much trauma that we often loud them, but we don't talk about the trauma that they pass on because of their hurt. So a lot of black men or black boys grow up having very trying relationships with their mother. So how does that impact when you're ready to get into the dating world? How you see black women, how you treat black women, who makes you feel loved, who you think is special. So all of these things are on the laps of single black women looking for a good man. So that's why you see someone like Lonnie Love, who's in a normal life phase thing, right? Like, so when you are in your 20s, you might want to build, but most people by their 30s or 40s, you want to build with a partner. And when it's hard to find a partner because there are real issues of like disparities in numbers, who's eligible, who's ready, you're sad. You know, so her loneliness, her tears are definitely real and felt by a lot of women. And you know, it's a trying situation for women who are hyper focused on only dating black men.
Right. So Tequila, I know that you are not with it.
No.
And so
Not at
you
all.
heard that video from the Rio, all the statistics from Dr. Tia here. So why aren't you with it?
I just feel like there is no comparison. Like, there is nothing that you can tell me that anyone else can bring to the table that can compare to what black men provide. And it's just that safety that you feel, not having to explain nuances, not having to explain why you may react to things a certain way. You just can be, and they get it, and they feel you. And
so rather, the sister is describing comfortability, not having to explain behavioral patterns and this kind of stuff makes the life easier. And by picking someone within the same culture group as yourself, the same experience group, choices make more sense, and you don't have to explain and feel slightly awkward. So when she was saying that kind of stuff, provide and that kind of stuff, that's what she was meaning. Let's be trying to be correct what she's saying.
it's that unspoken bond that you can't create with other races. Like, it's just not there. Like,
Well, I'm sure black men everywhere are applauding as you say that. But have you ever tried dating a white man?
No. I haven't tried
Not even
not
curious.
to. I haven't tried not to. I haven't had someone approach me and me say, no, you're not black, so I'm not gonna talk to you. But I haven't actively gone out and searched for it.
Not interested.
No, I just feel like even in a conversation, like, I can feel my mind drifting away. Like, I'm not engaged. I'm not feeling that bond, that connection, that there's just certain swag and flavor that black men just have.
Right. So one thing I hear a lot about the attraction to black men is swag and flavor, this kind of stuff, right? And that's good and cushy. That's very nice. But really, what we want to do, we want to be repainting the picture now as high principled providers, protectors, and educated. That needs to be the stereotype that we strive for. A reality that's practiced. So that when people are talking, rather than metaphors and good language, whatever, you can go to those principles there, those basic value principles there, and that's the goal. That's the goal, to spread that. So let's move on.
That is just, there's no way to duplicate it. There's no way to replicate it.
But Nicole, you are feeling that connection because I know that for the last 5 years you've dated almost exclusively white men.
Yeah, and that's not on purpose. It's just how it ended up happening. I dated black men almost exclusively in my youth up until maybe 30, 33, something like that. But I don't have a problem dating whoever's going to take care of me, whoever's going to treat me well, whoever treats the people around me well, whoever is a good person. I'm just like, I try to be open and open-minded about who I can have in my life. And I don't want to limit myself that way because I think good people are good people.
So did the statistics have anything to do with that, the social climate in terms of black women dating?
Yes, I'm from Nashville, which is a very white town. And when I started online dating, the people who were matching with me were mostly white men. And I will say, to be, honest, to give full disclosure, a lot of them were coming at me with some racist fetishizing bullshit. And
so this is something I've heard as well, quite across the board. Black women saying, fetishizing, abusive, not serious, with other kind of behavioral patterns, somewhat depraved. And this is the thing, black men and black women, we need to get our acts together so we don't force sisters to have to go through this kind of behavior, this kind of stuff. But, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what the world is at the moment.
And of course, I eliminated all of that. I did not, for the most part, entertain any of that. A lot of them were coming at me with some kind of like, do you dominate? Can you dominate me kind of thing in the bedroom. Yeah, they wanted me to like beat them up and step on them and shit like that. And then finally I was like, okay, well, let me see. I was like,
so you started beating them up?
A little bit, yes. I let somebody be my sub, my submissive, the person that I like kept on his knees all the time. And I like that. And so that helped me discover a part of myself that I kind of knew about, but wasn't allowed to explore in my relationships with black men.
Okay, well, I this show isn't about the whole intimate police and choices and that. But obviously, black men not want to be dominated. That could be perceived as a good thing. But once again, this is not me making intimate police, sex police kind of judgments, whatever. Everyone has their own in-bed life, which they are describing on a national stream. But
because, of course, they're into they were into like tying me up. But when I was like, okay, well, let me tie you up, they were like, no, we're not doing that. Well, why not? Like, if I'm supposed to trust you with that kind of thing, why can't you trust me? So there's a lot of that. Like, it's not just the sex, but it's also like this performance of masculinity that comes into play sometimes when I'm talking about just strictly like a sexual relationship, a casual relationship between like white men and versus black men. So that's part of also why I seem to kind of gravitate more towards white men in the last few years, even though I do miss the swag of black men. I miss the smell. Like they're really, that's terrible, right? But there is like a little bit. But there's like a smell, and there is something about.
This woman really isn't selling white men at the moment. Like this smelly, dominated, racial slurring. I'm sure I've missed the good charms, and let me not be naive, but I think there needs to be a better spokesperson because this sister is not better explaining it, but who knows? Could be the shy of the camera.
Not having to explain certain things or whatever, or not having to like.
Oh, so this swag business once again, swag and smells good stuff, but let's remember, educate, high principle, provider, protector. These are probably more valuable pillars for us to sit upon and work towards. Let me know if you disagree.
Just let go of certain things. So I do understand that. I'm not saying that that's not important, but there are other things that I think that sometimes I just kind of am like, well, you know what? I just want to do the eat me out, and that's what I want.
I think it's hard because you dropped that bomb.
I'm sorry.
Because when we talk about black and white men, we talk a lot about stereotypes, and swagger and being submissive, but it's so hard just to find someone that you're compatible with overall, regardless of race. And I think that's really what Lonnie was speaking to. Like, right. I want to be loved by someone. And the biggest thing she was saying about James is that he gets me. And there is, I think, a more of a focus for women specifically to date black men because unfortunately, one of the good stereotypes and bad stereotypes is that they are swagger, they are more masculine, they make us feel strong and protected. And, it's just challenging because there are black men who come in. There are black.
Right, feeling protected and being protected are two different things, and making sure that you get that one right. But let's leave this Sisters Across the Pond. So it's just to show you, some of the mindsets and the challenges that quite a few black sisters go through. And we showed you two dynamics for here in the UK and over there in the US. Right, so what we're going to do, let's now see if we can switch back. Yeah, stop screen share. I believe so. And then share again. And then find that fantastic PDF. There it is. Oh, yeah. Magic. Now, okay, so remember I said educated, high principle, provider, protector. What constructive black women want in black husbands? Yeah. There you go. So we listened to some. Well, the first UK lady wasn't necessarily interested in black men at all, I don't think. But see what happened. So now what we're going to do, we're going to move on to obviously, the legacy of dating, and obviously, when we talk about economics and building and people groups, we understand the constructed black man and constructed black woman makes constructed black child. And ultimately, you form a constructive black network, and you'll be shown networks early on. For those who haven't seen it, there we go. This is what white people are doing. Our networks are a bit in shambles at the moment. And obviously, this is the value of why you will try to have a constructive black man, a constructive black woman, and have these principles in place, all this good stuff. The next thing we've talked about before, and it is the concept of when you start interracial dating and this kind of stuff, the second generation wealth could be could everything we do today might not end up in ownership of black people. And what we do is we look around the world to see, what's happened. Now, when we spoke about mortality rate, incarceration rate, psychological damage rate, education rate, practical skill rate, we haven't added the other rate of actually successful black male rates being heavily pursued by non-black women wanting, obviously, to have security and lots of wealth, which women want. And obviously, many women who might not necessarily date black men would date a black man if they had quite a lot of finance. This is usually the trump card that changes all choices, but whatever. So we're going to show some people groups and some things, and let's see if we can educate. So next page, we have the Bruce Lee's legacy and financial state. So it's just me throwing stuff together. Bruce Lee, for those that know, he's very important to martial arts on screen and also martial arts coming to the West. He's from Hong Kong, Chinese descent. What we have here, we have his two parents, and there's him. And then what happened? He came to America, and he started becoming a big superstar. Started doing the films, started doing the whole kung fu stuff. And obviously, if him and his wife, they got married, they fell in love. Now his wife, European, not from Hong Kong, not Chinese. There is a Chinese community in America, but he didn't really find a Chinese wife. Now Bruce Lee is the biggest. I mean, look. People could argue with you. They could argue with you. But if you were to say martial arts, obviously in Asia, people will give you a different picture because Asia, there's a lot going on. But in regards to the West and the mainstream media, Bruce Lee might be the most important martial artist to come across the sea and to become famous. And he did, when Bruce Lee, there was clips and films where he would go in cinema and you see Europeans doing yellow face, brown face, black face. This kind of stuff is where Europeans mock different races with buck teeth and dark skin and glasses, this kind of stuff. And he wasn't best pleased, at least in the movie, and some people's testimony, that's what they were saying. Whether it happened or not, I don't know, but most Asians were not best pleased to see this kind of behavior going on. As most black people, not best pleased to see white people painting their skin black. It's never good to see that. But anyway, despite this, he still managed to see good in a European lady, a white lady, and they got married. And when they had married, he had two children. Unfortunately, one of his children died in the making of a film, in The Crow. But then he had another daughter who then herself, both children, funny enough, had girlfriends and got married, and had boyfriends and husbands got married. They, even though they were of European and Asian Chinese descent, they ended up being with European people. Now, obviously, Bruce Lee died very young, in his 30s, early 30s, I think, maybe late 20s. I've got to check that out. Very young. It's a shame. And obviously, his wife and his children inherited his estate. And today, there are three people controlling the state. That's his wife, his daughter, and his daughter's daughter. And obviously, maybe his daughter's husband has some kind of say, whatever. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, now this particular Hong Kong export Chinese cultural phenomenon, this kind of stuff, his legacy, and he will be generating money through likeness, if you want to have his likeness, you have to pay royalties. If you want his movies, he gets roasted from some kind of movies. The special effects kind of recreation acts have to pay him. And they really own it. Like people get shut down and sued for not getting this right. And if you buy certain kind of figurines, it'll say, appears courtesy of whatever it's called, Bruce Lee Enterprise or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, so but right now the legacy of Bruce Lee will be European. So the biggest martial artist, a very good Asian export, will be of European descent, a European phenotype and European persuasion, but more importantly, European control, European power. And this is something that I'm not saying people deliberately care about this, but this is something that's happened. And when you talk about economics, finance, and building communities, these are the questions people don't want to have, but these questions we have to have, because if Bruce Lee went to America to fix the history of challenges between what they call the Yellow Peril and the Americans, and he wanted to build up Chinatown and create Hong Kong studios in America and create that. He wouldn't be able to do that if all the men married Europeans, and because then they wouldn't have that cultural control. And I could be wrong. This could be another folklore tale, but I think he was beaten up. At least, I mean, people don't like to hear that, but I think he might have actually been beaten up quite badly by Chinese people for teaching kung fu to non-Chinese people. Could be wrong. Could be folklore. Everyone says he's invincible, but who knows? He was Russian, so I don't know. But you can Google that. You find out if it's true. Let me know. So anyway, that's that. So something to think about why you're picking a black woman, why you're trying to be constructive, why you're networking other people, because the back-to-back generation of pain and sorrow, we don't have that infrastructure anymore to actually be able to help out communities and be community-led and offer people work, offer people solutions, create media that makes people feel good, defense, and all. I mean, there's so much of this I can't even go on now. But anyway, this is stuff. Now, obviously, Bruce Lee's not thinking about this. He's come to America, he's having a good time, he's a millionaire, he's doing what he's doing, whatever. You ask him this, he probably don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Love is kumbaya, love is great, new philosophy, all that good stuff. But obviously, for the people who want to be the management of a people group, you have to understand this stuff. This is the adult questions that people don't have. And, if you let the mainstream dictate your behaviors, you'll do things that's not in black people's collective best interests. This has been proven for over hundreds of years. Oh, yeah. Now, we move on to brother. Look at that. It says Bruce Lee's legacy. Can I even change that again? It should say Bob Marley, right? But I'll carry on talking about Bob Marley as I see if I can. You must forgive me. Sometimes I'm doing 7 things at once. But this is clearly not Bob Marley. So let's see if we can move with the minute. I should just ignore it, carry on. But because I work in design, and you can actually get seriously fined for typos and that kind of stuff, I suspect I'm going to change it. So let's see if we can move the speed of the millipede. So let's say the star song. Oh, come on, what's going on there? Hold on. Count me in, guys. Even though this is a live streaming, it's been not live, but here we go. Voila. Let's type it in. So we're going to say Bob Marley legacy and financial estate. All right, we're going to save that. We're going to do this straight away. Count me down 17 seconds, please. And then voila, there we go. And I wonder if there's any more crazy language that's in there that doesn't make any sense. Going to close that down one more time. And then we're going to come here, we're going to click on it, and we're going to skip through this with the killer speed of millipede. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, here we go. You see that? It's colored. There you go. All right. Oh, yeah. Bob Marley legacy. Oh, that's bad. Right? Sorry about it, guys. Copy and paste. Here's a sloppy waste. Anyway, yeah, so once again, if those that know, Bob Marley was the product of a European gentleman and an African Jamaican lady. He then married a black woman, so 10 points for that. He married quite a lot of women, to be honest. So they say. But his estate now, after passing away, is now pushed on to his kids, but they all get a share. But it's run by two. It's run by 4 of them. I think I'm not putting the lady daughter. I forgot the name. It's something. I forgot the name. Shame on me. I'm shaming me twice. Anyway, but she's married to a black person. But if we look at the other 2 or 3 who are running, I found it hard to find the other one, but at least 2 of them now who are running the estate are married, and quite recently, to European ladies. And the reason we have to highlight this is because, and he's not looking particularly Rasta this one. I'm sure Rasta isn't a hairstyle, so whatever. But who knows? Whatever. Yeah. So this lady is a European Brazilian, and this lady is a European Jew with Iranian background as well. Some of those I can't remember, but the irony is in Brazil there is a lot of anti-black racism going on, and most European models will probably only, and she's a model by the way, will probably only want to be with a rich black person, because there is, unfortunately, it has some of the darkest history of racism of all time, especially when it comes to a process known as whitening, where the goal was to make black people genetically exterminated by whitening them out, which is never nice. And then obviously you have the brother at the bottom and his Iranian wife. Now we know that in Jerusalem, unfortunately, you know, a lot of Jewish men, we showed a few weeks ago, will go around and beat up the Arabs who try to take Jewish wives. They weren't best pleased with this. And obviously the black people are no different or whatever. But yeah, it goes on. So anyway, so this is to be let's be aware of, but you know, he has so many kids spreading the world, who knows what's gonna happen. But you know, that's it. Now, we're gonna end by saying this. We'll do an Aboriginal case study. Now to the right is the Aboriginal persons, black Aboriginal persons. Look at that. There's an S at the end of it. It's almost like I'm going crazy. I don't know, man. How did I even end up in this industry, mate? Even though I'm not a copywriter, but you know, whatever. Yeah, man. Anyway, let me Killer Speed of Made P one more time. Do the star song for me. Star song, if you can hum. For those that don't know, that's Mario star song when you Invincible. For those who are old enough. All right, so I've done that. We're gonna close that down one more time, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna open it up and get it right. All right, fantastic. Now let's move on. Let's go, Killer P. Where are we? We're almost there. All right, black Aboriginal person. Fine. There you go. Right. So the lady on the left, the black Aboriginal, is actually a model for enough. One of the first black Aboriginal models to be allowed to enter pageants. And on the left is a lady who has Aboriginal. Well, she let's say Aboriginal white person, and you know, very different phenotype, very different history. But the reason we have to, I'm using this as a case study, is I want us to listen. Let me see if I can listen to. Well, I won't go too long. It's more so the story of the plight of the white Aboriginal person. Let's have a sneak peek, bon appetit at this. Let me give it maybe 1 minute to 5 minutes, depending how entertaining it is. Where are you? How do we find it? So we go here. Hold on. All right, here we go. Oh, that's right. This one's slightly difficult. It's audio. So let's stop. Yep, and then let's go to share. Hold on. We'll deal with. Yeah, let's go to there. All right, fantastico. Audio MP3. All right, press play.
Our journey to accept ourselves is unique. Often stories are like
growing up before,
live, and have a laugh at them. One courageous storyteller is Eliana Lawford, a Wiradjuri Anawan woman. Her story was first aired on Spun Stories, a live storytelling podcast created in Darwin.
Hi, I'm a little bit nervous. I've never told this story to anyone before, not even my family, and some of them are in the audience tonight. So here goes. I'm a proud Wiradjuri and Anawan woman. My dad's dad is a Wiradjuri man from Orange in New South Wales, and my dad's mum is an Anawan woman from Uralla in New South Wales. But I spent most of my
So this is the white Aboriginal person.
Life growing up on Awabakal and Warramai lands in
This is her story.
Newcastle in New South Wales. I, as you can tell, am quite fair. Growing up, though, I had.
Fair is an interesting color because fair means beautiful. When you break it down, but whatever.
I have plenty of childhood memories and memories that are just like any other blackfella. I remember going out camping past Stockton Beach in New South Wales, which is Warramai land, with an Uncle Jonathan Lilly, and watching him throw 8 boomerangs up into a flock of birds, teaching the young ones how to get tucker. I was on entree duty, so I went out with the aunties, and I just remember doing the pee-pee dance and swiveling my feet into the sand until you felt a pee-pee, and then you'd kick it up into the bucket, and we'd all rush back and set them up on the rocks outside the fire, and until you heard the crack, and then you knew.
So the white Aboriginal lady tell you her culture and soon the challenge of her life.
The entrees were ready. But as I started my schooling, my Aboriginality became something that was questioned because I was so fair. I remember walking around with the sister girls at school and someone saying, "What's that white girl always doing, hanging out with all the black kids?" And I was like, "White girl, where?" But I remember the first time that it actually really resonated with me was when someone said to me, "Oh, you're Aboriginal, but you're white. How much of you is Aboriginal?" And I was pretty confused. So I went to one of the aunties who looked after all us mob there, and I said, "How much of me is Aboriginal?" And she said, "You tell them it's just your legs, and shit, can you run fast?"
So I wanted people to just be aware of the tone of the story. Just it's very important to understand the tone.
We kind of laughed it off. I can't run fast. But this was something I continued to get asked, also, do you tick the box? Do you get things for that? And every time I was asked these questions, I became more and more disgusted with the colour of my skin. That disgust, I guess, hit its peak when I was in about year 10 in high school, and I received an Aboriginal scholarship. And who says us black fellas don't get handouts? Living proof. I mean, I didn't get a car or a house or money, but I got 2 weeks unpaid work experience at the ABC. And I was over the moon. But then it hit me. I had this thought: how can I get up on stage as a black woman when I'm white? And that's when I discovered tan in a can. The night before I had to go down to accept this award, I lathered myself up so thickly in fake tan. I looked like one of those bodybuilders, like a tin man almost. I remember walking out the morning of, and my dad looking at me shocked, like, "Oh my gosh, what's happened?" And he just kind of laughed and said, "Well, Barb, you look the part." And I was the blackest woman to ever walk on that stage. But from then on in, I actually became obsessed with fake tan. So much so that I actually wouldn't leave the house without it. I wouldn't go out with friends. I wouldn't go to parties. I wouldn't even go on dates unless I fake tanned. The boys all thought I was playing hard to get, but really I was just too white. And the obsession grew from there, and I wanted it to be more permanent. So I started researching online ways that I could make my skin darker. I came across these tablets in America called Melanotan. And they were quite expensive, especially given I was working at Donut King at the time, on around a $6 wage. But anyways, I ordered these pills from America and I started taking them. And they made me so sick to the point that I would have to hide from my family and friends and sneak off to throw up. But the fake tan and the pills made me confident in telling people about my culture and my bloodlines and my Aboriginality. There was then a point when I was in year 12 and I was doing with an auntie down in Sydney, Auntie Bronwyn Bancroft, and I was looking up at this photo on the wall and she said, "Isn't it wonderful? They forgot to put her gloves back on." And that's when I noticed her black hands. Her face was white, her neck was white, everything was white except her black hands. And in that day, it was in the 1930s, her name was Auntie Dulcie. and it was Bronny's dad, Uncle Bill. They were quite dark black fellas, but the photographer had overexposed the photo in order to make them look white. And here I was, lathering myself up to make myself look black, and here they were overexposing the photographs to make them look white. If only we just could have swapped. But that was kind of a point in my life when I was actually felt okay, and Auntie Bronny said to me, "You just are who you are." Then last year I moved to Darwin to take a job offer as a news reporter with the ABC. And the first thing I noticed when I moved to Darwin is, I guess, the amount of Aboriginal culture up here. Some of the blackfellas up here speak English as a second language, if at all, especially in the remote communities. You know, hunting and fishing is still such an integral part of getting tucked for the day. And I felt like I was taken straight back to where I'd started, and I felt so white. I remember one of the days at work, I was sitting with one of the Aboriginal interpreters at work. As some of you may know, we broadcast news in a number of different Aboriginal languages. I was in the studio recording one of these broadcasts with one of the interpreters, Maggie, and she was there speaking a language, picking up her phone, chatting to her friends. And I said to her, "I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm actually Aboriginal too. But I don't know my language, and I don't know my dances, and I have white skin." And she looked at me and she said to me, "We feel so sorry for you, East Coast mob, because you lost so much."
All right, cool.
And for the first time in my life, I realised that it wasn't my fault, and I didn't have to carry around all this shame about not speaking my language every day and having such white skin.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
And as if she could hear all of the thoughts that were going on in my head, she put her black hand on top of my white hand and she said,
"Black hand on top of your white hand?"
"Yes, sister." I stood up out of that chair and I left 23 years worth of shame in it. And I walked out of that room as a proud, white Aboriginal woman.
Cue clapping. All right, so that's the plight of the white Aboriginal person. Let's see if we, hold on, let's make sure I got it right here. Voila. So that was the story of obviously, and this is what I was saying you you know, Aboriginal. Well, let me not skip this tail. Yeah. So that's the plight of the white. Then here's the plight of many, if not all, of the Aboriginal, black Aboriginals. Let's have some people. Rewind.
Australia's gold rush of 1885 happened here in the wilds of the far northwest. Heady days now largely forgotten. These days, the remote town of Halls Creek has a different, more troubling obsession to deal with. It's the middle of the afternoon and most of these Aborigines have been drinking for several hours.
My name is Big Mama Allison Helen.
It's not an isolated incident. This passes for normal in this quiet cattle town, and it's consuming the lives of many.
It's a huge problem in Halls Creek, and the fact of the matter is it's not getting better. It's just getting worse, and it's just out of control.
Unlike the neighbouring town of Fitzroy Crossing 2 hours away, Halls Creek has no restrictions on alcohol. From noon every day, any adult can buy full-strength alcohol from liquor stores. When night comes, the full effect of the non-stop drinking can be seen. It often ends in drunkenness and sometimes violence and increasingly suicide. Faced with limited opportunities, many young people are killing themselves, often after drink and drug binges. This girl is 16. She says she had drunk 6 large cans of beer and some spirits. Normal for her and normal to live among the suicides.
Yeah, but grog do make people have suicide, you know? Yeah.
No more grog next year.
And like, it make them like have accident, you know, and make them do hang themselves.
Grog is what they call alcohol. Some estimates suggest that in the last 2 years, as many as 200 young people have killed themselves in alcohol-related incidents.
I lost better opportunities, and I can't help drinking. That's the thing that's in main life of young people, drinking. You know, that's one thing that stops all of us from doing what we want to do.
Excessive drinking is hitting women as well as men, and in addition to suicides, it has led to something called fetal alcohol syndrome, when babies are affected in the womb of an alcoholic mother.
It's a life sentence for our children, for our babies. These children will have brain damage. It will affect their learning, their ability to learn. It will affect their ability to work.
It's said that half the Aboriginal community in the region are affected in some way by fetal alcohol syndrome, and this is having dire consequences.
We're looking at a large cohort of our children and our future leaders going to jail before they have any contribution to come back into our society. And their contribution to society will be, you know, constant violence, constant, you know, incidences of burglary, or just the inability to conform with some social norms in our community.
At the end of the day, you know, that's the way it is, and people just think that's a normal thing, and they just don't want to stop the grog because they just can't stop it.
When Kevin Rudd became Prime Minister, he apologised to Aborigines for past government-inflicted suffering. For Australia, sorry seemed to be the hardest word. Positive action may prove harder. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera.
All right, so we see a theme there, a consistent theme, and it seems to follow the Europeans around in certain kind of practices. And this is what I try to demonstrate and educate black people. And unfortunately, the Aboriginal brown sisters over there have become rendered collectively inadequate. And the same practice you might see on the many people Aboriginal to the land where they are facing European colonization, where they turn to the same kind of crime, drugs, alcoholism, this kind of stuff. There's history there, but let's see if we can go back to share screen. All right, so now we saw the two stories there of the black Aboriginal people and the individual black Aboriginal person. Now, actually, you know, because of the dwindling numbers of the Aboriginal people, plus no doubt the you know, low self-esteem and you know, looking towards Europeans for beauty standards, many of them will try to find their solutions in Europeans, and then eventually they will become European themselves, and then the Europeans will then claim Aboriginal status and get all the quirks of the Aborigines, as you see around the world. So these are the things, these are the consistencies that we see all around the world. Now, when I talk this way, I'm never talking about non-black people. I'm always talking about black people. I'm always talking about how to operate within black societies to form betterment, and it comes from inwardness, you see. And yeah, there you go. So I believe that might be it. All right, cool. So let's recap. Let's go back before we end there. Unfortunately, this is not this is a recording, not live, so we can't get people to jump in. It's so unfortunate because that is the heart of the show. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So today's show: should black people practice the solutions white people recommend for racism? No. White people have a different solution for racism that is free from black people. And you tend to find that, unfortunately, white people tend to go for the easy option. And that, because of that, we have to be free from that solution. And where are the high principled black men? Do we need a campaign to highlight them? We most certainly do. We want to listen to what black women are saying. We want to have shows to find out where there are shortcomings both ways, but we are going to focus more so on the challenges that black women face, because right now we see it quite consistent across the lands, because, you know, there is patterns here, you see. So we have to talk about it, and I have to be a male talking about these male challenges, and I welcome other males to jump on to talk about these stuff so we can find solutions within the community. Anyway, that's me for the Black Betterment broadcast for the 52nd show, and the first to be hopefully streamed live. I won't live streamed, video pre-recorded streaming, and see how that works. I hope that you guys are talking in. If there's anyone there at all in the wing at the moment on the stream. If so, bye to everyone, say bye to everyone, and yeah, let's help black people. Yeah, that's what we're here to do. Well, all right, peace. Let me end this stream. end.